We're live.
Hey, what's up? Ayo.
Welcome to Your Everyday Rich podcast.
We are your host. I'm Jason.
And I'm Jen.
And thanks for joining. Appreciate it, guys. The living room couch conversations that we have on this podcast are really to inspire millennials that look like you and me, or maybe don't look like you and me, to just really ask tough questions about things that are important to millennials.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they this topic that we were thinking about today, as you can probably tell from the title. They some of our friends have been preparing for the birth of their first child or their second child, and been going to some of these baby showers. Us having 2 kids already, we've kind of already experienced
Mm-hmm.
the wonders of childbirth and
Well, I've experienced the wonders
Sorry.
of childbirth.
Hey, no. Hold on a second. Straight up, yes. Literally, you experienced that, but I also literally experienced the childbirth. Not giving it, not doing it, but
watching it.
And while you are giving childbirth, you have a big screen over your face.
Yes. Oh, just for the audience, I had 2 C-sections.
Yeah.
So,
Cesareans,
yes.
and God bless you. I appreciate that. It
Yes.
was, but like, my eyes cannot unsee everything that I saw.
Well, you weren't supposed to look over that thing,
It
but you
doesn't-
decided to look over the thing when the doctor told you not to.
No, they didn't say, oh, by the way, don't look up. I just stood up because, like, what's going on? And then remember the OB was like, sir, excuse me, could you sit down? I was like, oh my God, Jesus, what's going on there? This looks like a movie from Aliens.
Okay, that's enough description for this podcast.
Oh, come on. This is real shit, man. We talk about real shit. This is if you are lucky enough to have kids and go through this process, guys, hey, I'm talking about the men, okay? The fathers here, you cannot unsee this stuff. So just be prepared, okay? Whether it's natural birth or cesarean, like,
no, you can't unsee it.
and I hear natural birth is a total different thing. Things that you will never look at your wife in the same way again. Everything comes out. Okay.
Yep.
So, but yeah, this is kind of how, like, we were thinking about this conversation, and had this conversation about the social pressures of having children, right?
Yeah.
In this day and age, and I think really throughout all of, probably mankind, but in observing our parents, our relatives, our friends, now ourselves, the social pressures of having kids it's always been high.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially in specifically our generation.
Okay, why so?
Because, well, let's start with back in the day, like during our parents' generation, majority of people would have kids in either teenage years,
Yep.
right when they're 18,
Yep.
or in their 20s.
Yeah, it's really
that was the norm,
Yep.
right? You finish, like, a woman would finish school, high school or whatever it is, and then would transition into that phase of their life. There's no post-secondary education. A lot of them potentially didn't even work, right? And they would, the next phase in their life would be motherhood.
Yep, raise children.
Yep. Right? And it's very different now. Now women are given the opportunity. We do high school, we got post-secondary. There's a lot more opportunity for women now versus back in the day. So there's other things that women can focus on. It's not just, finish high school and then have kids.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really true, right? It's based on this almost this cultural norm of different societies.
Mhm.
And really, I mean, I can only relate to it like the British monarch, right? Where, you know, had so much influence on Asian culture and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Where you watch these shows like Bridgerton and all these other, like,
Bridgerton, wow.
well, when it's on, you think I just don't kind of casually hear with the nonsense that goes on that show,
I love
right?
that show anyways, but
Yeah, yeah.
anyways.
But that's the whole thing, right? It's like you're 16, you go have kids, right?
Yeah.
That's your duty as a woman to go have kids.
And I wanna caveat this because this is probably obviously our North
Yeah,
American influence. This still happens in some other countries
for sure.
where it's still like that,
Yep.
where women don't get the opportunity to do some of these things I just spoke about, and they are, go to school or maybe not go to school, and then the primary focus is to become a mom.
And
I'm just saying.
yeah,
We're talking North American here, okay?
yeah,
Let's focus on North American because, you know, there's other countries that still have this type of mindset.
right. And like realistically, like the social pressures of having kids have never really changed.
Mhm.
Like it's there's still this social cultural expectation. I mean, just from our own culture, right, of Asian culture, is that like you're expected to have kids to at a certain age,
Yeah.
and then your parents are just all the time, and relatives are like, oh hey, give me good news. What's going on? You guys are married. Where are some grandchildren?
Your mom's waiting.
Yeah, your mom's waiting, right?
Your
And
mom's
there's
waiting
almost
for
this guilt,
grandchildren.
that they kind of like subtly, slide your way.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it's not intentional. It's really subconscious.
No, with good intention,
Yeah,
right? It's not ill-willed or
no,
anything like that.
but part of that social pressure
Yep.
is exacerbated by this,
100%.
right? By parents, by
100%.
relatives, and straight up, even by your friends,
Mhm.
right? There is a lot of pressure when you enter, let's say, a call it a traditional phase of your life, right? Where, I mean, the expectation is that you have kids, let's say,
Mhm.
okay, or the norm,
Yeah.
and you get the question. You ever had this question? Remember?
Yeah.
So,
When you're
you
having
guys
children.
trying? It's like,
It's
what do
like,
you mean trying? And it's so gross because when someone asks, "Are you trying?" It
it's kinda
basically,
like, "Are you having sex?"
yeah,
Like
yeah. Are you having sex? Are you making regular deposits to the bank?
Yeah.
Right? And that can be really fucking awkward
Yep.
and really uncomfortable because, like, the statistics of having kids is actually not that high. Of fertility
Mhm.
is not high,
Yeah.
right? And we'll get into that. But that's part of it, is that you don't know the challenges that are people facing when it comes to, I guess, trying to have kids.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, in my 20s, I was like that too. Like, I didn't really understand the challenges of fertility when I was in my 20s.
Because the movies and media make it seem
Yeah,
like
like,
if you
I didn't know any better either, right? Like, yeah.
if you fuck for like a second and all of a sudden, yeah, you get
It's
pregnant.
like, "Oh, no, you got pregnant." Like,
Oh, well, that's okay. Let's go there.
what's that
Let's go
movie?
there.
What's that movie with, was it, with Katherine Heigl? She has a one night stand with
Oh,
somebody, and then she gets pregnant,
yeah,
and then she has to raise a baby with this other guy. So stuff like that,
yeah,
exactly, right? You have a one night stand, and then you get pregnant,
yeah,
right? It's like it's that easy. All you have to do is have sex once, and you'll get pregnant.
yeah. Yeah, don't get us wrong. I mean, a lot of people like
That does
it
happen. I'm just
happens.
saying,
It happens.
but it's not like all the time.
Yeah. It
It's
gets
not that easy.
it gets harder with age. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Okay? When you're younger in your 20s and your teens, you are high chance of fertility.
Yeah.
Okay? That's just how
Higher.
biology works,
Yeah.
right? But if we're talking about like, in your 30s or whatever, and you're thinking of having kids, it's not straightforward. It's not as easy as the media makes it seem,
Hmm.
right? And let's go back to that whole thing where the not even let's call it not even a social pressure. Yeah, it is a social pressure. It is a social no-no in Asian culture that if you got pregnant before you got married, it was a fucking big frown on your
Oh yeah,
family.
for sure.
It's shame. You cast
You're shame.
shame.
You are shameful.
Yeah, you brought shame to the family.
Yeah.
Why? Why though? When you think about it, why?
Hmm.
Honestly, why?
Yeah, because the norm is that you're married first, and then you have kids. That's an Asian culture.
And I think when you look at it from a different perspective and you kind of see it like it's the dumbest thing ever to say that you have to be married or
Mhm.
you have to be this before you have kids.
Mhm.
Now, get me wrong. Not everyone should have kids, right? But the way biology works, a lot of times the people that shouldn't have kids have kids, right?
Yep.
Or shouldn't be parents have kids.
Yep.
Anyways, that's a 3 beer conversation.
Mhm.
But yeah, like we know lots of people that had kids before getting married. Yes, it wasn't unplanned. It was unplanned,
Mhm.
but doesn't mean that there are no they don't become good parents after.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who becomes a parent, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You
Yeah.
kind of learn on the way. So that's with everything, right? Like you're not going to know how to parent till you actually parent, and you're still not going to be good at it because you've only this is your first time. It's always the first time,
Yeah,
right?
and
And just because you had your first child, your second child will be different. So you can't apply the same principles either.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, like this whole thing where I guess I heard this conversation about like, the thing about dinks, right? This dual income, no kids, like this trend of dinks with no kids is on
Hmm.
the rise. And I'm just like, what? What does this even mean? What is the media trying to like portray here?
Hmm.
Because I think, they make it seem that yes, it's getting more expensive to raise kids, and it's a trying to go against the trend of saying like, I don't have to have kids. Why do I have to have kids? It becomes a lifestyle play where, hey, listen, financially it's more expensive, but as a lifestyle, it's like, I don't want to have kids. So, you know what? No kids. And that's totally fine. I think it's totally fine. And realistically, the media makes it seem that, it's like you have to make this choice. You have to make this choice from a financial perspective.
Hmm.
Or just saying, like, if you want to enjoy your life and retire comfortably and do the things that almost kids prevent you from doing,
Hmm.
don't have kids.
Yeah, but
Wait,
everything you can't like. Not everything in life is a financial decision,
yeah,
right? When it comes to having kids, I think we mentioned this in an earlier podcast. Like it's an emotional decision more than a financial decision for most people,
100%.
right? You want kids because you want to be nurturing, you want to continue the family name because you want to um have the responsibility of raising a child into this world and leaving your mark kind of thing, right?
Yeah, legacy.
A
Yeah.
legacy,
Mhm.
right? And that's I would say I'm assuming probably like 90% of people's decision on why they have kids or not.
But yeah, well, I mean, when it comes
Right?
down to it, biologically, we are programmed to reproduce. That is
Yes.
how we ensure the continuity of our bloodline. That is how Mother Nature, that's how nature works,
Yeah, I know.
right? Animals
Yep.
are just programmed to reproduce
Yep.
because the fittest will survive. And you can't do that without reproducing.
Yeah.
But when it comes back to this whole thing, delayed parenthood is not, if like from a traditional sense, it's not a bad thing. Okay. Like, I want to just be straight up is that if you are entering a phase in your life where, like, from a traditional standpoint, it seems like you should be having kids, right? Before this age,
Hmm.
like, ignore that bullshit, first of all,
Yeah.
because the social norms are changing.
Yep.
Like, Jen, you were mentioning women, right? Women are the women are the key factor here. Okay.
Yeah, because guys can have kids when they're like 70.
Yo, shout out Mick Jagger. Okay. So, like,
Fuck.
all
No problem whatsoever.
yeah, it doesn't impact men as much, but to piggyback off that conversation again is that like women now have they're taken because of the opportunities now, right?
Mhm.
You're establishing your careers.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
or having a child becomes uh more of a back seat when you're focused on something else,
right.
right? Because you have the opportunity to focus. You have opportunity to focus on your career,
Yeah,
right? And other things in life versus, like I said, just coming out of high school and then, having a child.
yeah, and that's just how the timing works.
Yep.
Unfortunately, with how traditional education works,
Hmm.
right? Where you have this ramp up period of building up your career, building yourself in the workforce.
Hmm.
That it takes time, and by the time you've gotten to a place where you feel a bit more financially stable, or you've kind of set your foot made a mark in your industry,
Mhm.
then it's like, oh crap, do I take the foot off the gas now? Because
Mhm.
like you said, yo, taking a year off for mat leave, and now in Canada 18 months.
It's a career staller. I can tell you
Do
now.
you
Like
think it
that's
really is?
it is because I had 2 kids in 5 years,
Hmm.
right? My kids are a year and a half apart plus 2 years in that's 5 years
Yeah.
that my career had stalled from a like if you're looking to, go up the ladder or like move to different positions, like it's hard like for someone to consider you when you let's say you go into a new position for 3 or 4 months and then you go on mat leave.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's hard.
That's
It's
the
the
reality.
reality. It
Yeah.
is the reality, and to say, "Oh, you shouldn't consider that person because of what their situation is," it's kinda hard, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you even know if you see the person 6 months pregnant, you know they're gonna go into mat leave for 3 months. Like, by the time you train that person in that new position, they're gonna be off for mat leave. You know what I'm saying? So it's reality. So from my personal experience with having those 2 kids for those 5 years, my career stalled.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm okay with that, like,
Yep.
that's the choice I made,
Yep.
right? But that is the reality.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. Right? I can only observe, obviously, what I've seen and what we've talked about and grown as a family.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking from a lens of an employer or an entrepreneur and something like that, right? I'm looking to build people or hire people to fill critical positions.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not going to put someone that I need, that's not going to be there for a year, potentially 18
18
months.
months, yeah.
Oh yeah, just, oh, it's okay. No, no, that's fine. Yep, the business will carry itself. Yo, that's not how it works.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately, it sounds
No,
it sounds bad,
it
but
sucks,
that's
but
the fucking reality,
it's
right?
reality.
Like, you have to make sound business decisions. And if someone were to say, "Oh, the woke mob," would be like, "Yeah, you can't do that," blah blah blah. It's like, well, everyone would be out of business. So that's just how it works, unfortunately. And there's obviously different roles that allow for that, right?
Mhm,
To continue to say, "Oh no, don't worry. Hey, government jobs, right? It's like, don't worry, we got lots of minions to fill that role for you," and blah 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 and all that stuff, like administrative stuff. Like,
mhm,
listen, I'm not, um, I am not talking down on any specific role or whatever, right? I'm just giving some examples. Okay, so to chill out if you're feeling trying to be woke here. Um, but like you were mentioning, as you progress in your career as a woman, like, obviously there's more responsibilities for anyone, whether
mhm,
you're a woman or a man. And
mhm,
to be able to have an employer say to give you those responsibilities, and all of a sudden you can't fulfill them,
mhm.
well, what do you think the employer is going to do? Like,
They're
they
not
have
gonna
to make the decision.
yeah, they're gonna
So
choose somebody that's gonna be there.
so it's tough, right? So I mean, back to what you're saying, like, how what did we do? Remember, how do, you're saying I'm fine with that decision, right?
Mhm.
So then how does it change now after having the 5 years? Like, what do you feel like you had to do differently to kind of almost get back and ramp up again?
For me, it's more so I I think you have to decide what you wanna prioritize because there are jobs out there that require you to work a lot of hours to be in that position,
Yeah.
and I just choose not to. I just choose not to work those many hours
How come?
because I want to come home and make dinner for my kids. I want to come home and spend time with my kids, bring them to wherever that needs to be, you know. That's the choice I make, right? And I'm very I would say fortunate to have an employer that understands that.
Hmm.
Not every employer is going to understand that. And be that's just straight up.
Yeah.
Not every employer is going to allow you to do that in certain positions.
Yeah.
And that's a choice that you have to make on whether you want to work for that person or that employer or not. Like that's just someone else will if you're not going to, right? And you have to be okay with your decision.
This
And
is
what does that mean? Is that equivalent to potentially a pay cut? Maybe. But these are decisions you have to make as a mother.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because not everyone has that flexibility of an understanding employer.
Yeah.
Um, because being, working for larger corporations, it could get very cutthroat because
Oh yeah.
it comes down to the bottom line,
Yep.
right? Of profitability
Mhm.
and utilization, and like a lot of industries, um where the expectation is that you work like a dog.
Yeah. 60, 80 hours a
Yeah,
week, 90, 100 hours a week, right? I don't know.
right. And it can feel like you are conflicted and you're pulled in two sides. You're like, what do I do as a mother
Yep.
or even as a father?
Yep.
Even as a father, you're like, well, is it the expectation that the man, okay, the man, in a traditional household bring is the breadwinner? No, not anymore. I mean, you can be old school and believe that, which there's nothing wrong with that. You absolutely, if you have that ego and that pride in you that says, no, I am a man, I should be doing that,
Mhm.
fine. Don't get me wrong. You should be going and making a living,
Yeah,
but
contributing.
it doesn't mean that you have to be the breadwinner
No.
because there's opportunities. Like there's so many opportunities now for women,
Mhm.
but it's tough because both sides have to make that decision too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think with our partnership, I think we have to decide that for our family versus my own sole decision as
Personal
well.
aspirations.
Yeah.
Yep.
You kind of have to as a family, as a couple who are trying to build a life for your own family.
Yeah, because I'm going to pose this question to everyone, right? It's just a thought is if you are set on having kids, but then in your head deep down, your ego is driving you to build something massive for yourself, then and it doesn't include your family where you don't get the opportunity to build with your family, what the
With your
fuck did you want to have kids
with
for?
your family in mind, right? Like you can't just that's the thing. Like you when once you have kids or your thought of kids, it's not just you
Yeah.
anymore. And if you want it to be just you, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that, but just realize that when you bring kids and other people into the picture, that decision just can't be about yourself anymore.
Yeah, because like as selfish as it sounds, which in a way I believe we should be selfish to have these personal aspirations,
Mhm.
but then it becomes this point where you're not doing it for the right reasons anymore,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It now you almost it's you have created a detriment to your family by only focusing on yourself then.
Yeah.
Like I said, why did you want to have kids then?
Yeah.
There are so many deadbeat parents that have kids and then don't prioritize their kids or don't give the attention and care to their kids
Mhm.
and include them in their life plans,
Yeah.
where it's such a shitty thing to see,
Yeah, I know.
right? And you
Yeah.
can see that like you can see how that behavior starts even from a young age.
Yeah.
But anyways,
We digress.
that's a little rant there. But I mean, delaying parenthood is just this is a changing of the norm, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a changing of the norm.
And I think it's mainly with our generation, maybe one generation above us as well,
Yeah.
because that's really when women started to do other things.
Yeah, and because realistically, like there is a ramp up here for a time for us to achieve a little bit of financial stability.
Yep.
Things are expensive. Let's not kid ourselves. Like you need stable housing, living expenses, fucking childcare.
Yeah.
Man, geez, like all those things add up.
Yep.
And if you don't want to have kids and you want to have that ultimate personal freedom
Go
and
for it.
flexibility, yeah, don't have kids then,
Go for it.
right?
Mhm.
We're gonna be real. Kids don't make it easy for you to have all that stuff all the time.
No.
So, and like the thing with fertility too, right? So we won't spend too much time on this, but like the research and just going through the research ourselves personally
Hmm.
experiencing it, but when you read about it and you're like, man, it really is actually harder to conceive than it is
Yeah.
how media makes it seem like.
Yep.
And I'm just going to read a few things here too, just so that I mean if you are thinking of having kids, or having more kids or having your first, whatever it is, right? If you're trying, aka you're doing the dirty. Like a woman in her early to mid 20s has a 25 to 30% chance of getting pregnant every month. 30%
Mhm.
in your 20s. Okay?
Mhm.
Think about that. 30%. That's not a great percentage.
No.
And fertility generally starts to slow and decline when a woman is in her early 30s. And after the age of 35, the decline speeds up. So biologically, that makes sense, right? So by the time you're age 40, the chance of getting pregnant in any monthly cycle is 5%. So it went from 30% on a good day
To 5.
to 5.
Yeah.
That's it's not really
And that's just fertility, right?
yeah.
So,
And, and a lot of focus here is on the woman, okay?
well, yeah,
And
men. I don't think men have any issues. Not that
there
I know.
are
Are there?
there
Not that I
is.
know of.
So
Or
like men can shoot blanks.
yeah.
That's the reality. Men can shoot blanks,
But
and
does
there's a
that possibility go up as you're older?
I didn't ask ChatGPT for
Yeah.
about that,
I
but
don't know. That's I don't, I'm not a doctor. I have no idea.
but here the thing is, we're talking about social pressures, right?
Yep.
There's so much social pressure on the woman to get
Mhm.
pregnant,
Mhm.
right? That every time you can't conceive, it's there's a pointing game at the
Yep.
woman,
Yep.
right? As a mom, say, well, why can't you get pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, we're trying. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, are you like all these things?
Mhm.
The cycle, the full moon, half moon, pillow underneath the bum, all this weird shit that you start thinking about, right? Like drinking this kind of
All these
tea.
wives'
Yeah,
tales.
wives'
Oh,
tales,
you should do this and you should eat this.
right? But then it points to the parent, the mom,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous because there's lots of cases.
Where it's a male.
It's the male. All
It's
of a
the
sudden, you
issue,
do the
not the
test, and you're
woman.
like, there are no mini buddies in
Yeah.
that little river of
Yeah.
yours.
Yes. And I want to mention these numbers are fertility. So that's like
Yeah.
getting pregnant.
Yep.
And then the second part of that is staying pregnant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Right. So the as you get older, the miscarriage also, the chances of miscarriage. So you're pregnant now, and the chances of miscarriage is also higher.
Yeah.
So it,
Because
brings that even down even more.
there's a lot more complications involved,
Yep.
and it's not just miscarriage; it's complications developing a lot of ailments,
Hmm.
child ailments,
Yeah.
right? Um, you can think of all the things that are that can happen with a lot of kids
Hmm.
that socially are looked negatively because of disabilities and things like
Yeah.
that, right? Child disabilities from
Yeah.
childbirth, all that stuff. Um, but you know, when it comes down to all this stuff, there's so much pressure that is wrapped around all this, right? Whether it's from parents, from media, from friends, from your own thoughts, right?
Hmm.
Of where you think you should be and what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Just take a step back and remember, just like anything where this is a commitment, right? This is a long-term commitment, and nowadays science is amazing where there are things that can help us achieve that fertility,
Hmm.
right? And I won't get into the morality of that, but um there are options,
Yeah.
right? There are options, and yes, they're fucking expensive. And you can go back to another episode where we did it really early on, the cost of raising kids. It make you think twice. But like I said, this is an emotional decision, right?
Hmm.
We
It's
doing this a lot
emotional.
of emotional in and I want to share a story here where if we felt there okay, raising kids, going through childbirth, pregnancy, as a woman, and as a mother going through postpartum, right? All that stuff from just the mother standpoint, and then from the dad standpoint of supporting and having to go make the money, right, while you're off,
Hmm.
and obviously doing all that stuff and both feeling tired, the anxiety, the depression, all that stuff is that happens, and the challenges you ask yourself, it makes you think. You're like, why the fuck did I want to do this?
Hmm.
Seriously.
Sometimes, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Why did I want, what made people think that child having kids is amazing? But you know what? We've seen it. We've experienced it. After all that stuff that you say, that the roller coaster of emotions that you go through, and you're like, I hate this. I hate it so much.
Yeah, the times when you're trying to put the baby to bed at
Yep.
3 in the morning and they're not going to sleep.
Yep. Or even the challenges that you went through, maybe with
Yeah.
fertility issues,
Yep.
miscarriages. After all that, emotions and your biological urge
Mhm.
to have kids takes over.
Yeah.
Right? It just takes over. The logic is out the door.
Yeah. You
You don't
forget
you don't you
you
forget.
forget all that stuff that you went through.
Yeah. All that hardship you forget. And I could tell you firsthand experiencing it, but also seeing it with our friends.
Mhm.
All of a sudden we're like, "Oh, hey, you're pregnant again. Awesome.
Mhm.
I never thought you would get pregnant again
Yeah.
after hearing your story."
Well,
Right?
after hearing them, tell you how difficult it was
Yeah.
and all this stuff that they went through. And you know what? Like you said, the emotional part takes over. You naturally, like you said earlier, like it's a human nature. We're naturally bred to reproduce.
And maybe the social pressure got to them. Hey,
Or that. I
straight
don't
up,
know.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. But anyways, like this whole conversation is about just kind of, framing it so that, we you see the social pressure, you understand them, where they come from.
Yeah.
But realizing that you'll the opportunity to bring children to this world is a absolute blessing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an absolute blessing. And I would never trade anything for it.
Same.
Like, it's something that you cannot describe. Like I said, people are saying, "Oh, when did you know? Like, when did you feel ready to have kids?" Like, I don't know.
Never.
Me- when I was starting to make the deposits,
Never.
it
Even that, like,
like
I wasn't ready to have kids.
no,
Nobody.
you
You
never.
say anyone's ready to have kids, you'll never be ready to have kids.
Yeah,
Never.
never until the day that you peek over the curtain, or you see the baby come out, and you're like, "Oh God, oh God."
We're here. It's time.
Right? There's no right time. Like, there will be
No.
no right time. Okay. So stop putting the pressure on yourself. We can't control our bodies. Yes, you know what? Like, you might be at a point where you're like, you're thinking, oh my God, as a woman, like, it's like, the joke, shit, the
The
clock,
clock is
the
ticking.
internal clock is ticking.
You know what? This is my prediction. I should write this down. Is that because women still have a biological clock,
Hmm.
whereas like we talked about, 35 and over, 40 and over, you have difficulty having children. My prediction is that in the future, I don't know, maybe 50 years from now, women will not be bearing children in their bodies. We'll be bearing children like, like an alien resurrection, and you have all those like test tubes with like embryos.
Hmm.
I feel like that's what's going to happen to humans.
Dude, it's like the Matrix.
Yeah. Because that takes away from the issues that are currently being dealt with women bearing children as they're older.
Hmm.
So if we can find a way for women to have, because that, I think over time, like as we progress, like women, people are gonna have children later.
Yeah.
It's just a reality. So what is our society gonna work on or try to help that situation? Because no one's gonna have any kids any younger. It's gonna just get older, right? And we need to, like you said, we need to keep reproducing. So one way that I can think of that will help mitigate that is to have a child outside of the human body.
Yeah, I'm surrogates, right? I mean, that's just a fancy way of saying artificial surrogates. And the
Yeah.
way technology is advancing, I would not be surprised to see when we are much older that actually happening.
Yeah.
It's crazy to
You're
say,
going to have
but
facilities where you have embryos in water or in whatever,
well,
you know,
if we're at that
liquid.
point, sorry, like the sinister side in me will see like this becomes a weapon of mass destruction, because now you are manufacturing soldiers, and this becomes Universal Soldier back in
Oh,
the day with
God.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like,
Oh,
literally,
my
this
God.
becomes Universal Soldier with the Matrix.
I don't know. I'm not thinking about that
We're
part.
fucked.
I'm more thinking about how do we help people have children later.
She,
And that's my solution
glass
is
half full, me glass half empty, but I add ice. Okay, I add ice to make it full. Okay.
But anyways, that's my prediction in like
All
50 years or whatever.
right,
Like,
hot take.
women are not going to be pregnant. Like, we're going to be pregnant, but like, you're going to you can go visit your test tube baby.
Jesus.
I mean, right now they're putting babies in other people, right?
Yeah.
So why not put it in a test tube?
Hey, if it happens, let it happen. But like when it comes down to it, like we basically, like, I want to say that stop putting pressure on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stop putting pressure on yourself, and just, you obviously plan for it if you can. If you don't plan for it, fine, and let it happen. But the wonders of childbearing and this whole thing is a process, okay? And remember, there's no refunds, okay? Unfortunately, there are some cancellations, okay? But we won't get into that ethical question here. But this is not a I can exchange or refund, right? When it happens, it happens. So if you are going to go through this, just make sure that you commit, because I want to tell you right now, deadbeat parents are the number one thing that detests me the most in this world.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand fucking shitty parents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I will fucking call you out if I know you, and you know that you are a bad parent. I will call you out.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but listen, um, another thing too is, as your friends, with your friends, do not like stop asking people if they're trying to have kids.
Yeah.
That is the social pressure that we're
Yeah.
trying to eliminate.
I've learned that too, because I used to do that too when I
Yeah.
was in my 20s. And then as I learning over time,
Yeah.
being exposed to fertility issues and things that people are going through, and ourselves as well, like things that knowing what childbirth and what it requires and all this kind of stuff. I've kind of learned that too, right? To not ask these questions in that type of way,
Yeah.
to add that pressure
Yeah.
that the mom and dad already have,
Dude,
right?
don't, like, the shame and humiliation of infertility is incredibly challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know how much guilt people feel when you can't get pregnant, when the expectation is that you get pregnant, or you have a miscarriage, or you have complications
Yeah.
and whatever, or you go through in vitro or whatever, like artificial insemination,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh my God, like there's guilt, right?
Yep.
Because we've created that guilt through
Yep.
social norms.
It's like, oh, you can't have children.
Yeah.
Like,
Ooh,
it's yeah.
look at you, right?
Yeah.
They failed as a human almost.
Yeah.
So stop that. Cut that shit out. Like, seriously, stop asking people if they're trying. Because first of all, it's gross. I don't want to know if my friends are fucking. You know what I mean? And it's not really like it's not really romantic either. It's it is such a robotic way of going about it. Anyways, that's if
TMI, TMI.
but it's so true, right? If you're going through it,
Yeah.
guys. Hey, listen, guys.
It's time.
You know
My
exactly,
my calendar app says it's time. Let's go.
you know exactly what the fuck I'm saying. Okay, if you've had kids, you know exactly how. Unless you were one of those like one and done kind of guys. Hey, good for you, man. Props,
Yeah.
straight up props. Hey, you got it over with. But hey, um, so like we wrap this up, okay? You have kids, social pressures. Like when it does happen, parenthood, like I mentioned earlier, is magical. It's just
Mm-hmm.
this is the word I would use. It's magical. It's fucking tough, but it's the most rewarding experience as a human
Mm-hmm.
that you will ever go through in your journey. And really, that
100%.
defines our everyday rich, our children now.
Yeah.
Like it really does.
That's why we build our everyday rich, because of our
Yeah,
children,
yeah.
right?
Like to experience it with them
With
now,
them.
to see them grow and all that stuff, the
Exactly.
challenges of parenthood, all that stuff is magical,
Mm-hmm.
so magical. So, listen, if this topic is tough, right? This topic is tough, and we don't want to create those social pressures, but we want to highlight them. We want to highlight them because they're fucking real. They are real, and for you to hopefully get a sense of what we went through, but also what we're observing with our friends and stuff like that, so that you could be more considerate to the people that are going through this, or maybe it's you that's going through it, so you can get a greater appreciation for the challenges and the reality of this stuff. Um, and bottom line, hey man, go enjoy it. Go enjoy it.
Which part?
I don't know. I'm just gonna leave that open ended. But hey, listen, if you've appreciated this conversation, this living room conversation, about asking the tough questions of that millennials are going through in life, We want this to reach other millennials so that
Mhm.
they can hopefully take something away from it. And if we can help one person, that's really all that matters. So share it, like it, pay the fee, do the thing. Appreciate you. Giving you daps, yo,
Mhm.
daps up. No,
Sure. Sure.
all right.
Okay.
Anyways, till next time, guys.
See ya.
All right, peace.
Your Everyday Rich podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Any such information or other material should not be construed as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a qualified professional.